Well, good morning. This is Ian R. Crane, and it's the morning of Monday, 10th of June, 2019. And it's an absolutely glorious late spring morning up here on the southeastern edge of Dartmoor. I'm just watching a hawk hover beautifully in the gentle breeze here. Although I must confess, it's a little cooler up here than it is down in the valley, but the tourists haven't yet hit this area and turned it into a Piccadilly Circus. So I'm enjoying the peace and quiet, the bird song and the sheep baying in the background. Of course, sheep makes a change from my usual audience of Frisians. Anyway, the title of this morning's broadcast is The Coming Summer of Discontent. And, things are starting to ramp up. I'm really going to start this morning talking about 5G, because this is, without any shadow of doubt, the most significant existential threat that the developed world has faced for a long time. And it's very definitely a silent weapon for a silent war, but the effects are certainly not so silent. And indeed, many people are already suffering from tinnitus, that constant ringing in the ears as a result of being in intense EMF environments. I must confess, it's one of the time as possible away from the urban areas because of the ringing in the ears. And when I come out into the more rural areas, it tends to disappear. It's interesting, I was actually up 5 hours at the weekend in Snowdonia, and one of the things that I noticed was when I was underground, the ringing in my ears completely stopped, and I was able to enjoy absolute silence for perhaps the first time in quite some time. So 5G is a major issue, and although many people don't realise it yet, of course there's an increasing number that do, and we should be looking to add to that number over the coming weeks and months. And tomorrow night she'll be still down here in the southwest, and there's a 5G event organised by a local resident of Exeter, Charlie Kay, and the event is going to be held at the Matthews Hall in 4 Street, Topsham. I'll put the full address under the video at 7 o'clock, and I'll be joined. What's really interesting is that the effects of this are starting to ripple down through the economy. And I was speaking to an estate agent at the weekend, and he told me that he had lost the first sale as a direct result of phone mast proximity. And he said that the prospective buyers, were reluctant to explain why they were pulling out of the purchase. And he said because it seemed that they were absolutely sold on this property, they loved it, and were talking about their grand plans for it, but then they pulled out, and they were very reluctant to share with him the reason pushing, and in the end they said it's proximity of that phone mast. And this shows that there is an increasing sensitivity to this street furniture. And this wasn't even 5G, this was just a 4G phone mast, but I certainly wouldn't want to be living within visual sight almost of a phone mast, and that's why I prefer to be out in the country. But of course, in the cities you don't have much choice. But what we are seeing is that phone masts are increasingly being put up around schools, and not too far from here in Dartington, of course, the parents withheld their children from the school until there was a commitment that the phone masts that had manifested overnight right alongside the school would not be activated. And I can quite see a time in the not too distant future where in the distance on a still night you can hear the sound of angle grinders doing their work. That the corporatocracy has had enough of this free rein, and it is time for local communities to do something active to prevent this harm being perpetrated on their communities. Now, I got to make the observation that There's a guy who lives in the south of England. He has a Polish wife, and they've been very active in trying to raise awareness about the risks of 5G in Poland. And I got an email from this gentleman over the weekend, and he advises me that Mateusz Morawiecki, the Polish Prime Minister, has now personally backed an appeal to being rolled out. But it is apparently being tested in Warsaw, in Łódź, that's Lodz to many of you, Gliwice. So nonetheless, the Prime Minister of a country is concerned, but it's still being tested in 3 Polish cities. But nonetheless, perhaps his concern will start to ripple down through the communities in Poland, and they will also start to become, very active. Of course, in the UK, we have it now, EE confirming that they have switched on their 5G in 5 cities, but that is soon to be 16. And what is very, very clear is that the telecoms industry is putting the infrastructure in place all around the country. And these supposed tests are simply a blind to keep people thinking, well, it's only being tested. No, it's not. It's been switched on, and they're keeping their fingers crossed that it doesn't trigger a spate of fires like happened in South Korea when they switched their 5G on. They're hoping that they don't get a rush of people to the hospitals, or if they get a few people, they can keep it quiet, and then they will switch on the 5G right across the country. But the level of awareness is increasing, and we intend to do everything we can to increase that level of awareness with a 5G awareness mini tour, which has taken some time to get together. The logistics of such things are not insignificant. And these meetings will be held in hotels, in the centre of the cities as much as possible. And it'll kick off in Bristol on Monday, the 9th of September. And then we have 5 solid weeks of 5G awareness around the country. And the tour will finish on October the 11th. But of course, it won't finish. I mean, there'll just be a pause while we plan, what happens next. I'll bet part 2 of that tour, but part 2 may not occur until 2020. And of course, the thing is that over the coming 6-7 months or so, the level of awareness about the concerns of 5G are going to grow exponentially. And there are industry events in Bournemouth and London planned for the summer, and we'll be putting information out about those events. And if people feel that they need to let the industry know about their concerns, then these will be opportunities for people to come together from right across the country to challenge the industry and let the government know that the level of concern about 5G is ramping up, and local authorities will be held to account. And I know that people are downloading their council constitutions, and what is very interesting is the reaction, because some councillors, and these are the ones who are proving themselves to only in office because it makes them look good. They can say, well, I'm a local councillor actually. Well, so what? Because if you're a local councillor just for the title of councillor, then step aside, because you are not fit for purpose. And let the people who are prepared to step up to the plate, are prepared to challenge the status quo, let them take the seat. Unfortunately, an increasing number of councillors are being advised about their constitution and about their responsibility for the health, safety and well-being of their community. And it's not good enough to say, oh, but we can't do anything because it's a national infrastructure project. Well, that's what the industry wants you to say, of course. And ultimately, that's maybe why the angle grinders will have to come out. But meanwhile, let's try to make sure that we do everything we possibly can through the due process. And this starts with getting councillors and other political personalities in. If they can't deliver, then something else will just have to occur, won't it? Because this is such an existential threat to humanity that if So basically, you take it lying down, then you won't just be lying down, you'll be 6 feet under in a relatively short period. Or you'll be watching, your family members develop cancers at a phenomenal rate. We already have a situation where 1 in every 3 people is expected to develop some form of cancer in their life, and that is forecast to ramp up to everyone within the next 20 years. And no surprise when you're pumping carcinogenic EMF into communities right across the developed world. And of course, the people that have been working to develop cancer cures are treated as criminals. And David Noakes out on tag, Lynn Tyre facing extradition. And of course, the common law court convened by John Smith, the extradition is annulled. They have ruled that David and Lynn should have all of their assets returned, and they should be permitted to reinstitute the facility for the production of GC math, because it is for the benefit of humanity. But of course, it's being shut down for the benefit of the corporatocracy. Well, the common law ruling is now with the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court clearly need a prompt. The Supreme Court clearly needs some help in understanding the magnitude of concern that the people of this country have about the judiciary whoring themselves to the corporatocracy, and therefore extraditing Lynn Tyre on the back of zero evidence just because the French judiciary have asked for her to be extradited. And of course, then they're going for David Noakes. Meanwhile, of course, their own country is in absolute turmoil as the people rebel against the rampant corporatocracy that is destroying their culture and destroying their quality of life. So if you want to help, then please do get in touch with the chief case officer, who is also the registry manager at the Supreme Court. He's a gentleman by the name of Robert Greenberg, and his phone number is 0207 960 1992. That's 0207 960 1992. And of course, we'll put the phone number beneath this video. And finally, this morning, let's take a little bit of a revisit of what happened in Perterborough last week, where Lisa Forbes, the Labour candidate, scraped home from the Brexit Party after polling 10,484 votes. The Brexit Party candidate, Mike Green, polling 9,801. So that was a majority for the Labour candidate of just 683. Now, the Tory candidate, Paul Bristow, he polled 7,243, and the Lib Dems got 4,159. So the top 4 candidates basically polled 31,500 or so votes between them. Yet, it's reported that there were some 6,000 postal votes in the count in Peterborough. So that is something in the region of 20%. Frankly, I don't buy it. And neither do a lot of other people. And in fact, I noticed just this morning that there is a petition online which has been signed by 18,691 people. That was as of about an hour or so ago, to instigate a analysis and a proper study of the postal votes, because of course postal votes are the easiest way to manipulate an election, because nobody knows who sent them, nobody knows where they came from, but bags of them miraculously manifest on cue, and were instrumental, of course, here in putting the Labour candidate into Parliament from Peterborough, when all of the straw polls prior to the event indicated that it was going to be a significant victory for the Brexit Party. So it's been observed over the past 15, 16 years or so, ever since Tony Blair won his constituency back in 2005, at the time when he was at the pits of his popularity, because people were realising that, of course, he had instigated illegal wars on behalf of his puppet masters, and so he was at the pits of his popularity, but somehow he scraped home with an even bigger majority in 2005. Postal votes. So postal votes are what has turned the UK into a banana republic. In fact, the electoral system in third world countries is far greater, more scrutiny, and put under more scrutiny, it's early in the morning, than anything in this country, because no one questions 20% of the vote coming from postal votes. I don't think so. So basically, if you are in Peterborough and you are not happy with the result, of course the Remainers have set the precedent here, then you're entitled to have a bit of a concern about it. But here there is genuine issue, and that is on the postal votes. And it doesn't matter where you are in the country, because basically whatever you vote can be overturned by bags of postal votes miraculously appearing during now to give the establishment the wanted. And of course the last thing the establishment wanted was a Brexit victory in Peterborough, hot on the heels of a massive run on the Brexit popularity at the EU elections. So all to play for. Obviously enjoy your summer, but find the time to get involved, because if we don't get involved, then these socio-psychopaths who think that they can keep everyone on the plantation quiet, under control, through effective slavery, financial slavery, then they need to be aware that there's an increasing number of people that are sufficiently motivated to find the time to dig a little bit deeper, look at what's occurring, and then when they realize what's occurring, actually step up to the plate and get involved. And the more of us that get involved, then the quicker that we can bring this insanity to an end. Well, it's the start of the week. We've got a busy week, obviously, not least tomorrow night I shall be at the Toption event, and speaking alongside John Kitson. There'll be plenty of opportunity for question and answers, and we'll be looking at the Exeter City Council Constitution and looking at the responsibilities of the officers and the councillors for the health, safety and well-being of the people within that community. And so these people better start taking an interest in what's going on with the 5G rollout, or they're going to find themselves facing a common law court for their failure, whilst in public office, to protect their constituents from the harm being perpetrated by the corporatocracy. And meanwhile, I just want to make the observation that the corrupt Judge Supperstone was the judge who has also ruled that Boris Johnson has no case to answer for the deceit that he might just have perpetrated in the previous elections. Anyway, Judge Supperstone, of course, is the guy who has ruled that unlawfully that Lynn Tyre should be extradited to France, and Judge Supperstone has been released from his responsibilities by ruling in the common law court, because he, Justice Michael Supperstone, is clearly not fit to hold public office. Meanwhile, you have a great day, and if I don't see you in Topsham tomorrow evening, I will be back with you at 8:30 on Wednesday morning. You have a great day.